There's a very deep understanding of, even in terms of the story of the fall, garments are very important because Adam and Eve are clothed in glory, right? That's the way that at least St. Ephraim presents it in many of the church fathers. And then in the fall is when they kind of see themselves as naked, as lacking. And then they feel like they have to add something to themselves. And so these dead garments of skin get added to them. But that doesn't stop there. It becomes also civilization, right? So Cain goes further down into the fall and he builds this city and he builds these walls and technology and these weapons. And the idea is that is somehow a reaction, or it's a movement of the fall that's going deeper and deeper down into basically going all the way to the flood in the biblical narrative. And the surprise of Christ is that he fills all of that with light. So the final image, let's say, of the Transfiguration is the heavenly Jerusalem, which is now it's really just the entire world that is filled with glory. But the hint of that, or the promise of that, is exactly like Aidan said, is that this garment that Christ wore is now no longer let's say a dead garment of skin, but is now filled, like it's full of the very glory. Right? That is what the promise is, that the reason for creation is that it can be theophanic, that it can be a place where God reveals himself. I mean, in some ways, that's the reason for creation. Without that, why did God create the world? Yeah. Like, God created the world out of this.
To get in the way of him. No,
exactly.
Surely it's there to reveal him.
Trying to get in the way of him.
Okay, so all of creation, from plants and trees and clothing, can participate in the glory of God. Is that?
Well, God created it, but it says in Hebrews that by the word of his power, all things sustained. So God just didn't create and then he walks away and that thing has its own. God remains in that and gives it life. So Bishop Callistos Ware says that Christians aren't pantheists, but they are panentheists. God is in everything, sustaining it. This is the meaning of the logoi, the words. I mentioned the second stage of the spiritual life is to discern, see, hear the words of God within each created thing. There's a hierarchy, obviously an animal is higher up on the hierarchy than a stone, but nonetheless everything in its own way is an image or reflection, takes on some element of God's form, inverted comma. So in the sense that wherever I look, if I look at Jonathan, look at you, look at a tree, I'm seeing God in that. You're not God, but I see God coming through you. So everything becomes iconographic.
You could share with me what this feast means to you, or what the Transfiguration means to you. I mean, was there a moment in time when you asked yourself, like, what really is the meaning of the Transfiguration? What does this look like in my life? Why do I need to meditate on this or to ponder this particular feast?
I mean, I think that Christ in the Gospels, there are moments in his story, and each moment reveals an aspect of the mystery that Christ is, and so to me I see in some way the Transfiguration and the crucifixion as almost kind of standing in contrast with each other. Here's this moment of where Christ is revealed in his divinity through a kind of glory, through really using all the symbolism of the Old Testament, all the symbolism of the glory of God, the Shekinah, all this imagery is brought there. And then you have this other contrasting images where the glory of God, the glory of Christ is actually being shown on the cross as well, but in a very strange, inverted and hidden way. And so to me, I love that. There's something about holding those two stories in tension, which I think is important for us, in terms of liturgical artists, for example. And so we understand that the beauty of the church, right? The beauty of all the things that we make, the frescoes, the mosaics, all of this is in some ways a participation in the Transfiguration. And that we're called to kind of hold these two things in tension. One which is the self-sacrifice, one which is the helping the poor, to care for those in need, to kind of give ourselves, to empty ourselves for others. But then there's also the possibility and the importance of celebrating that glorious aspect where all creation comes together and celebrates God. And so to me, the image of the Transfiguration as an artist is in some ways a guiding light to say, like, no, there is this possibility of participating in that, and like you said, gathering the elements, gathering bits of wood, bits of gold, bits of stone, and being able to hopefully offer something up so that it participates in that process.